Hello, welcome to episode 7, I think. I don't know. It probably is 7. This is going to be a tutorial on the new AI gear assigning. So if you use the AI gear stuff in the old framework, this is completely different and it's actually a lot better. And thanks to Nelson, we've got some great probability settings as well. So open up config.hpp and if you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see we've got all this AI gear stuff here and a lot of documentation on it. So to start off with, let's look at basically the classes. So we've got class AI, class gear, class Blue4. So it should be pretty simple. This is the loadout settings for Blue4, loadout settings for Op4, and so on down to civilian. We've got a few little flags and an array and a bunch of arrays. So I'm going to go through each line and just fill in some basic stuff, and hopefully you'll get the gist of it. So first of all, enabled equals false. So obviously we want to default this to false. If you're not going to be changing AI gear, then make sure this is false because it will enable the AI gear setup for this. So, if you're not using any of this stuff, make sure all of these are false. But if you're doing a mission and, for example, you're against the Op4 team and you want the Op4 team to take a particular loadout, then you want to set this to true. I'm going to be doing this on the Blue4 side, however, because I don't want to be shot in the face when I spawn units. So my enemy is Blue4. I want to change their gear, so I'm going to put enabled to true. Next line is remove night vision. So pretty self-explanatory. If it's true, then none of the AI units are going to have night vision. If it's false, then it will not add night vision, but it won't remove it either. So I don't want them to have night vision, so I'm going to click true. Remove medical items. So this is, if it's true, it's going to remove things like bandages, morphine, epinephrine. If it's false, it won't add it, nor will it delete it. So it's not going to add it, if it's false. So I'm going to leave that to true because we don't want players to be able to pick up medical supplies. Prioritize tracer mags. So this is quite interesting. If it's true, it will basically, when it picks a weapon from the rifles array, it will go and find all the magazines that fit in that gun. And if some of those magazines have tracers, then it's going to use those magazines. So self-explanatory, it's going to prioritize tracer mags. And if there is no tracer mags available, then it goes back to whichever is available. So I'm going to leave that to true because a light show is very fun. And then we're down to uniforms, all the way down to attachments. We've got these little braces and brackets and so on. So you should know what these are by now. These are arrays and very, very simple to set up. So basically we've got uniforms, open bracket, close bracket. This tells it that it's an array. Equals the square, so the curly bracket braces, close brace, and then semicolon. So this is a value of the array in here. So this is where you define each uniform. And you can see up here we've got an example here, so like headgear. Inside the brace, you've got another brace, a class name, and then a value, which is the probability, comma, and then you've got another option down here. So this is where you define each item. So I'm going to quickly go in game, get a few class names from the loadout, and then come back. Okay, so I've got a few class names ready. So first of all, I've got 2 uniforms, and I want to make it so there's a 50% chance one of them is going to be used and a 50% chance the other is going to be used. So I'm going to start off with the 2 braces like that. Now this is right now it's called an array element because we have something inside these 2 braces which makes it an element. And inside this array we're going to open up a string, so 2 quotes, and I'm going to paste in the German fatigues. So this is a class name. This is the exact same thing that you have exported when you make your loadout. So if I quickly open up an assign gear thing, so this is Blue4, you can see here this is a uniform. We've got this force add uniform, this class name. So if you want to find the loadout for your AI, go into the virtual arsenal, make the loadout, export it, and literally just read this and pick out the strings. So this should be very straightforward. You have to really read it like English because it may look scary, but it isn't. This, which is the person you're going to add it to, force add uniform. So obviously this is a uniform you're going to add. And you got the add headgear. this is a headgear you're going to add. So break it down line by line, find out what you want to add, and just copy it. So then back into config, we've got this string now, we've got the uniform, and it's still inside these two braces, comma, space, and this is the probability. So the probability is between 0 and 1. 1 being 100%, 0 being 0%. So if you have 0.5, then there is a 50% chance that this uniform will be picked. If you have 1, then there is a 100% chance it's going to be picked. 0, then there's no chance. You get the idea. And if you have multiple elements in an array, so for example, if I did 0.5 and then we did outside the braces, comma, and did it again, so we make another element. And in this, I'm going to paste the RHS Russian loadout, and in this, I did a comma 0.5. Then this is correct because we have two elements that add up to 1. So these both have a 50% chance of being used, and if you add 0.5 and 0.5 together, you get 1, which is 100%, which is correct, right? But what if you had 0.5 and 0.6? Well, that gives you 110%. So obviously you can't have 110%, can you? It's only 0 to 1. So what this clever system does is it basically does it proportionally. So if this is 0.5 and 0.6, it might say, well, let's shrink this down to say 0.45 and then shrink this one down to 0.55. I'm not sure if that's correct. That does look right. So it kind of scales all the values to make a correct range between 0 and 1. So you can never really fuck up with this. This is totally retard proof. The only thing you can fuck up with is syntax and writing the code. So that should be pretty simple. I'm going to leave this at 0.5 and 0.5. And there's my two uniforms. Now the next thing I'm going to add is vests. So I'm going to do the same here in vests. I've got a Russian thing. I'm going to make this have a 75% chance. And then a German vest, which is going to have a 0.25% chance, 25%. And last but not least, we've got rifles. So I'm going to make this a German rifle. Oh, made an error there, didn't put the braces. And this is going to be, let's do a 0.1, 10% chance. And then in this one, let's make it a 0.95. So that's technically incorrect, but we'll see what happens. I'm expecting this to be used vastly and this to be very, very rare. Now, before we go in game, like these items here, these don't have anything changed. It's literally just an empty array and that's it. Now what that's going to do is it's going to leave whatever the default headgear is alone. It's not going to touch it. So if you want the soldier to have 0 headgear, to be a bald head, then you probably expect it to say, well, it's not going to have any elements, right? It's going to be empty. Well, that's where you're wrong, because an empty array, I don't know how to explain this, but an empty array, it doesn't have any effect. It's just going to be ignored and the headgear won't be changed or altered in any way. So if you want to remove headgear, then we're just going to have to do the same thing, but an empty string with a probability of 1. So what that's going to do is it's going to trigger the headgear change. It's going to remove all the headgear, but when it goes to add it, because it's an empty string, it doesn't add it because obviously there's no, there's no class name or headgear called an empty string. And it's probability of 1, so it's always going to do it. And that's simply how you remove headgear or something. So I'm going to do the same for goggles. And same for backpacks. And voices, faces, launchers, attachments, that's all fine. Okay, so let's go in game and see what this looks like. And make sure you save it. Okay, so we're in game, and because we changed the config to HPP, that is part of the description.ext, so we need to save the mission. So before you press play, you have to make sure you save it. Okay, so we're in game, and obviously it doesn't affect player units, so my gear hasn't changed at all. But as you can see, it has affected all the AI units, which is the perfect outcome of this. So this guy has a really shit loadout. He has German fatigues, he has a Russian vest, Russian weapon, and no headgear, no goggles. And this guy doesn't get the idea to stop. So he has actually a German vest, so he's got somewhat a decent loadout. This guy, all Russian, pretty good. So the values we used was 50% for each uniform, which is sort of what we're seeing now. I'm going to go into Zeus quickly and just see. So it is roughly what we're seeing now. We've got pretty much the same amount per uniform. And the vest we chose was a 75% chance of spawning a Russian vest, which does look like what's happening right here. We've got a lot of Russian vests, not a lot of German vests. So probability works fine. And as you noticed earlier on, we actually made an incorrect range, resulting in like 1.05 or something stupid. So that hasn't errored, hasn't done anything stupid. It is instead it's just recreated that range and applied it properly. So I haven't seen any German weapons. Oh, there's one. See, quite rare, but most of them have AKs, which is what we wanted. So that's perfect. Now I'm going to go up over here. And the good thing with this is it's totally Zeus and MCC compatible. So if we were to spawn a blue 4 fire team, for example, it automatically assigns their loadout. So if you're worried about, Zeus having to apply some sort of script or spawn a particular unit, you don't have to worry. It's going to assign a loadout. So we can do Assault Squad. Yep, all looks pretty good. Maybe they'll change the weapon, but that's not really a problem. And yeah, everything's totally randomized in the way it should be. In future updates of this assign gear module, what we're going to be doing is making it a bit more predictable on certain class names and class types. So we've got things like machine gunners, auto riflemans, and anti-tank, things like this. Where's the other one? I can't find machine gunner. But yeah, we've got an anti-tank and we've got an auto rifleman. And obviously these guys don't have anti-tank or a machine gun. So in the future versions, we're going to have it so if you spawn a machine gunner, you know that it's going to pick a machine gun if defined in your loadouts. So that way, if a Zeus spawns an AT, they're going to get an anti-tank guy. If they spawn a machine gunner, they're going to get a machine gunner guy. And anyone else can just be random. So hopefully that'll make it a bit easier to use. But we don't really want to be focused on that right now. The idea is just to get, AI gear easily editable and in a game. Okay, so that concludes this episode. I don't know what the next one will be. It'll be episode 8. And it will probably be something related to the framework, but I have no idea what. If you have any questions or anything you don't know what to do, or if you're totally stuck on something, then watch all the videos, and then if you still are stuck, then send me a message or request, a tutorial or something. But hopefully I've covered the majority of what everyone wants to do anyway. You've seen too much. You've seen too much, dude.